What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the Grieffully Podcast. I am your host, J.Nicole. Guys, we are back in the building, rocking and rolling. And today is going to be a special episode. We are going to turn our attention, our hearts, our love, our support to all of the people that could find themselves, quite possibly, struggling right now in this moment when it comes to grief and loss of a mother, or being a mother and you're struggling and dealing with the loss of a child, which I can only imagine how difficult these circumstances are. Maybe it's a grandmother, maybe it's the woman figure in your life, maybe it's a child that you were a parental figure for. There's just an array of ways that this could be impacting and bothering you and troubling you. And so I like to, this time of year, always just dial in, sit back and just show some support here because, again, the journey can be difficult. Sometimes we could feel and beat ourselves up if we feel like, hey, it's been quite a few years that I've been dealing with this loss and I'm still finding myself in these predicaments where I'm so brokenhearted, I'm so sad, and I feel like I can't move on. I want to challenge you today because I want you to sit there and think about this. I really want you to think about this. Factually, even if you don't feel like it, you have already survived 100% of your worst days. So whether that was the day where you got the phone call that person passed away, whether that was the moment that you were in the hospital when everything just changed with that bad news, no matter what them circumstances were, those days, we've gotten through them. So I'm not going to say that we moved on from the loss because I truly believe that grief that we deal with will be with us for such a long time. But those crisis moments, those feelings where you felt like you absolutely couldn't make it through, you are making it through. And again, it may not feel like it every single day. But if you're anything like myself, there were times where today, the way that you feel, the fact that you can get dressed, that you can go to work, that you can make phone calls, that you can laugh, smile, heck, even the fact that you can eat is a milestone. And so instead of really focusing on how detrimental and how heartbroken and how sad you possibly can feel right now, I want to try to challenge, and I want to challenge you to open your eyes and just look and give yourself credit for where you've been able to get to, what you've been able to overcome, and what you're continuing to survive through. Some of your stories out there, I will never hear them, but I can only imagine the possibilities of pain. How deep and how endless it can go just to the cores and to the roots, especially in unexpected circumstances. There are so many people that I've seen on social media that I know personally that I've dealt with myself as well as those close to me, that I think if people haven't been in your shoes, it's really difficult to understand. And so what I want to also say to you is that some people in your life, this time of year, they unfortunately might not be able to empathize. They may not see, they may not understand how those commercials on TV are triggering, how their happiness and the way that they're sharing and showing love for the mothers in their lives, or their children showing love to the mothers, and all of these different things going on can be very triggering. And so I want to challenge you and hope that you could maybe not get as triggered in the sense of understanding that unfortunately we do live in a society that lacks empathy in some regard. And there are some people who are just blind. They're really blind, and I don't know that it's always intentional of where we could be. So be your advocate. Speak up. Hey, I can't really talk about that right now. I would love to attend this event, but it's a little bit triggering for me. I'm not going to be able to do that. I think our voices are our best asset. They're a huge tool that's going to help us so that we can be our own advocates in order to be able to get through this season in our lives. I remember there was times where I would go into the aisle of the stores, like say a store where you would buy a card or something along those lines for Mother's Day. And shortly after my grandmother passed away in 2016, I found it very difficult because I won't be giving that card to a grandmother. And am I a granddaughter anymore? And so maybe you can feel a little bit lost and displaced could be a word. And maybe not fitting in and feeling like you are who you used to be anymore. Like your identity as far as this is concerned, you just cannot relate. I understand. I see you. I want you to feel seen. I want you to feel heard. I want you to know that someone gets it. Someone cares. Some of us have lost loved ones, the women in our lives or the children in our lives, if we're parents and we're struggling around mothers, if we're struggling around the loss of our children, to some traumatic circumstances. And so even though we want to keep our heads up and we want to move through these days, that these calendar days that we as a world celebrate and put so much emphasis on, are really difficult. They're really difficult. And so I don't want you to take it as I'm saying and it's easy. I think it's extremely hard, and that's why I want to try to form as much community, and I want you verbally to hear that there's support out there. And if you know someone in your life that could be struggling, that you can look at it and take a step back and say, hey, let me try to be a little bit mindful of where this person is. So I'm not saying that we should dim our light and that we should minimize our experience and our happiness because we don't want to offend others, but just be a little bit conscious of where someone is. If you feel like you don't know what to say to someone that you know is having a tough time right now surrounding Mother's Day, you can always just send them a heart. You can always just say thinking of you, because sometimes I think the lack of not acknowledging is just as hurtful as if you said something that you might feel or classify or justify as the wrong thing. So in this case, saying, hey, just thinking of you, praying for you, or even just maybe sending them a card of some sort. Let that person tell you that that was too offensive or that wasn't the right thing, or just simply say, what does support look like? If you don't know how to show up for somebody around these times, Mother's Days and certain holidays, and you don't want to say the wrong thing, you can always ask them, what does support look like? Or, hey, last year around this time, I could tell that you were a little down. I didn't really know how to approach it, so I didn't say anything. Would you have preferred that I said something to you? Would you have preferred that I sent you something to eat or wrote you a nice letter? I don't know, but I do know that silence isn't the key. Unless, of course, someone tells you that silence is what support looks like for me, then we have to honor that and we have to respect that. But until then, just taking it upon ourselves to not lean in and to not say anything, that's tough. That's definitely a difficult thing. And I just want to remember that some of these circumstances that people are facing, this could be the first time. And just because maybe they've, say, for example, lost a grandmother and then they lost a mother, it could look at like, well, you have experience in this area, but no two losses are the same. And people struggle differently. And some people might not. You might have been able to find a new normal and lean in. If you aren't familiar with what new normal means or haven't heard it spoken about, it's just basically getting to a place where you can envision or see a same situation like Mother's Day or a holiday, but you can fill it in differently. So it's the same landscape. It's the same time of year every year. It's the same commercials. It's the same cards. It's so much. And it might be the same pain that you're feeling inside. But if you can lean in and say, hey, what could I do? Because I can only control certain aspects of my grief journey. And so what I'm going to decide to do this time is this or that. So it's like a plug and play. We have to get creative in our healing journey in order for us to have it work for us. Because what works for me and what has not worked for me might work for you and it might not have worked for me. But if we just sit back and let life railroad us, then that's what's going to happen. It's going to just run us right over. So think about, what could that look like? How can we pivot? How can we turn it? Will it be the memories that will hold us together? Or will it be looking forward to future moments? I'm not sure. I know for myself, I was thinking, hey, am I going to go and visit my grandmother's grave this year? I'm definitely going to try to do it. But when that day comes, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to fill up to doing it or if I'm going to do that at all. This year is a little bit different because I'm going to say it now, but different things in my life are changing and it can be hard, could maybe be harder for me to visit my grandmother because I do have some news to share with her. And I am going through some different things in my life right now where it might hurt a little bit more, or I can look at it and say, hey, when I go there, I'm not going to be super sad because I have great news to share. I'm going to share this news and I'm going to lean in, and whatever emotion comes up to the surface, I'm going to just rock with it. I'm going to let it flow. I'm going to just let it happen because it's a beautiful thing to be able to do that. But again, we can have a plan. And then maybe our emotions change and we're not able to fully lean in and fully allow ourselves to experience that. So definitely allow yourself to be creative. Boundaries are huge when it comes to these times of year. When we're faced with Mother's Day and people are inviting us places and people are saying things or having certain expectations of us, woo, I am sure someone is feeling the pressure of the expectations of others for them to show up. I can only imagine how a mother might feel on Mother's Day to have to push through after losing a child, but you still have other living children. My love and my prayers goes out to you. Wherever you are, I can only imagine how difficult that is. How a sibling might feel trying to celebrate Mother's Day when their mother has lost children. I can only imagine how difficult that might be. If you are a mother and you lost your mother, but you have children, how difficult it can still be. The complexities of this time of year, I could not have enough time here to talk about what they can be like. But if we can just for a second give ourselves grace, give other people grace if it's needed in that circumstance, and just say, hey, listen, I don't know. I haven't been in your shoes. I'm not in them. But whatever this journey looks like, I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to be supportive. And if you're talking to yourself, you're going to say, hey, I know how you feel inside. I'm going to honor that. We're going to lean into it. We're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to keep our heads up. And if it means keep my head down, if I've got to just pull the covers over and stay inside, then that's got to be okay too. I think when we talk about the landscape of just grief and loss in general, we have to understand that we have to give people and ourselves grace and space to move accordingly to what they do and what they see fit. Even though you might want somebody to be happy this Mother's Day, you might buy them the best gift ever, get the best card on the market that Hallmark could ever give. They can still be sad. They can still be sad. And for our codependent people out there, that could be hard to accept. I'm going to go ahead and raise my hand. I want to bring happiness. I want to do that. Is really important. But I have learned that when people are grieving and mourning, there's only but so much that you can do to try to help them along that journey, to help them move through it and navigate. So sometimes we have to just sit back in the crowd, let the person know that we're there, but don't do too much. Don't do too much. And I will give you a hack. I will tell you what I have done to help me in these moments. To me, part of me sees Mother's Day, Father's Day, these types of things as just another day that I have to get through on my grieving journey. So I cannot minimize it because I have a grandmother who passed away, but I have a mother that's living. And so I want to lean in. I want to celebrate that. I have a mother-in-law. I have sisters-in-laws. I have aunts. I have people in my life that I love that are mothers. So I've learned to kind of find that balance where I don't put too much weight on it because I know how I feel and I know how it can be triggering, but I also try to leave a little piece in my heart in there to remember that there's people that I do want to celebrate this with. So how can I find that balance? Now, mind you, this has taken me quite a few years to get to this point. So the first times out the gate, I was not feeling good. I tried my best to lean in. It wasn't so much that great, but just after looking at it and saying, hey, what could I have done differently? How could this be differently? What's the outcome that I want to achieve? No plans until like the very last minute has worked so well for me. Not my family. They don't always love that I don't like to commit to certain plans. I kind of just am like this. If you're watching, if you're not, I'm just kind of wading in the water. Just, we'll see kind of person. We'll see. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out. Still thinking about it has worked wonders for me on my grief journey. If I commit, I feel too much pressure. If I feel too much pressure, it could be too triggering. And if I'm too triggered, well then, guess what? We don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to fall apart? Am I going to just stop pressing forward? What's going to be the outcome? So in order for me to feel like that, I have to be free. So maybe that's going to help somebody today that you might feel so restricted. You might feel like there's so many deadlines and so many things that are going on that are just making you feel like you have to commit to entirely too much. And so then you just feel overwhelmed. I think the losses were overwhelming enough. So we have to advocate and try our best to lighten our loads and to make this journey a little bit more bearable and something that we can actually just get through and navigate. And if you're going to be able to do that, if you think about it, just literally, If you're walking up a hill, or if you're climbing out of a hole, because I feel like that's a little more symbolic to combating and dealing with grief and loss. If I'm trying to get out of a hole, I'm physically climbing out. I'm trying to get, I lost my mom, or I'm a mom that's lost a child, or I'm a sibling whose mother lost a child, and this is just a tough time right now for Mother's Day, and I'm trying to get out, but then I have all of these deadlines and all of these commitments and all of this pressure. I'm going to fall back down. So in order for us to go up or go forward on this journey, we have to try to lighten our load. And for me, not having these commitments and plans and just all of these things has worked so much better. It may not work for you. You might feel better with plans, but I always just can first and foremost speak from my experience because, hey, that's all I know firsthand. So that's something that's very important for me to tell people, is that your grief experience is unique to you. It's your own recipe for healing. It's your own recipe for healing. You can get as creative as you want to or as basic as you want to. It's your own appetite, and you're just trying to quench your own palate, not worrying about everybody else. It's hard to do sometimes, I know, depending on what you have going on, but that's a real thing. So, again, for the hearts out there, for the minds out there, for anyone that's just struggling around this time, I want you to know that you're not by yourself. It's 24 hours that you have to kind of get through. You can get off of social media. That's another good thing. Just turn off the TV, turn off the social media, not really engage in that way, and don't feel guilty about it. Do it unapologetically. It's setting a boundary for yourself. Hell, it can be very overwhelming and triggering to see people with their happy pictures and their posts and happy Mother's Day and just this whole vibe. And that's not where you are. Well, you don't have to look. Easier said than done. I know some of us love to be engaged on social media and all of these things, but you don't have to. You don't have to. You have to protect yourself. Protect your peace is so important. It's so crucial to understand that. And this journey. And so I really also want to shed some love here. There's many people, many mothers, many women who yearn and long to be mothers. And for whatever reason, you have not been able to get to that point yet. That is a real thing. That's grief. And I want to educate people that is tough. The journey to conceive, the journey to sustain pregnancies, the miscarriages, all of these things that happen every single day is a real thing. So when we talk about Mother's Day and we talk about loss, let's also recognize the women who haven't been able to get to that point. All along in their hearts and minds, they've envisioned themselves as mothers, and for whatever reason, it has not happened or come to pass. My heart is with you. I want to send you tremendous amounts of love, and I think that this time of year, those women get overlooked to an extent. Maybe. I'm not saying completely, but I just do know that is also bereavement. That is also grief. Grief is deep sorrow, and there's a lot of sorrow in not being able to become a mother in that way. Obviously, there's different ways to become a mother, but there are women that I know specifically on a journey where they want to conceive, they want to carry children, and they are not able to do so or have not been able to do so yet, because I'm still believing for you. Man, I'm sending you so much love and so much prayer out to you, to your family, to everybody that's been trying to support you. And I'm praying that things can change and turn around, and that one way or another, that prayer will be answered for you. But I have to highlight that because I just do think that we think more on a scale of what we can see or what we once saw. So even to this extent of mothers who have had children that were born and lived and unfortunately passed away, or vice versa, children who have had mothers and parents. It's just so many levels to the amounts of loss. There can be grieving the living. I have to talk about this too. When we talk about Mother's Day and we talk about losing and loss, we're not just talking about to death. There are people who this is a difficult time of year because they are grieving someone that is alive. They are grieving a relationship that did not happen, that is not healthy, that is non-existent for whatever reason, and that is difficult as well. There are children that are in foster care systems that have been put up for adoption. There are so many different levels to this that just have not had what they would have wanted in their heart as a mother or a mother figure in their life. And so again, we want to acknowledge those communities and those people, and to let you know that from myself, the grief bully, I'm sending you so much love and prayers. And I mean that. God be with each and every heart, each and every person, that no matter what their circumstance is, whatever it is that brought them to this point of sorrow, I pray that you can just mend their broken heart, that you can meet them in those broken places, and that you can remind them that broken crayons still color. And one way or another, it will be a beautiful picture. So keep them safe, keep them strong, keep them healthy, keep them feeling motivated and inspired, and keep their faith strong that this journey is not over, that they will keep pressing, and that all things will come together for the greater good. So I just definitely wanted to make sure that we touched on that as well. I hope that each and every one of you out there that is celebrating and that is in that space and will receive it, a happy Mother's Day to you and your loved ones and your family out there. And guys, I'm going to leave this with a little tidbit, just a little something. If you are not following me on social media, you might not be aware, but Lord willing, this time next year, I'll be celebrating a Mother's Day. I am a mother to be. And so I truly just am super thankful for that. I thank God for that. And I'm excited for it. And it's just an amazing time in my life right now. But also, I'll talk about it at another date. It's been a little bit of a challenge, just balancing just grief and what I've known and what I've experienced and where I'm trying to head to. So trust me, I get it. Trying to live in the joy and combat the pain is not an easy feat. But like I said in the beginning, you've already survived 100% of your worst days. Keep believing that. Keep pushing. Keep going forward. And guys, just know that you have my love and my continued prayers. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. If you're watching on YouTube, drop us a comment. Let us know. We're going to drop some hearts for all those mothers out there and all of those circumstances that are pending right now. Put some praying hands up for everybody right now that's going through a tough time. If you're listening to the audio, I would love for you to leave a review. Let me know what you're thinking, how you're feeling, what's going on with the show. And like I said before, if you're not following me on social media, you absolutely should be. What are you doing? That's where I hang out the most. Make sure you follow me there over on Instagram at I_am_J.Nicole, guys. So next time, you already know. Love and light. Peace.